Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. And this is another Free Ndeed Fridayz podcast. We're doing a fellowship edition because this weekend is Father's Day. That's probably going to mess up on the recording, but it's cool. It's Father's Day, and we did a fellowship edition for Mother's Day, and I just don't want the fathers to be outdone, so we're giving the same type of attention to our Father's Day experience, and I've got some men here. I want them to introduce themselves because I want you to give us your name. You can tell us your age if you want to, and how many children you have, their ages if you feel like doing that. We're going to start to my left.
All right, I'm Courtney Williams. I am 38 years old as of last Friday. I have 3 children, one that's 20, one that's 13, and one that's 10. And the 20-year-old has now made me a grandfather, so I've been a grandfather for the last 2 months.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
My name is Sherman Scales. I'm not going to give my age.
My name is
because I'm pointing at me. That's who I am. I'm not going to give my age, but I have 6 kids. Let me get the age right.
If that's too much, it's fine.
Yeah, you know what? If I give the ages, I have to go into all kind of details about why they so close together. But anyway, so yeah, I'm the proud father of a 6. So
to God be the glory.
Daniel Green, have 56. I have 4 kids.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up.
And I'm Mark McKnight. I have 2 biological kids, 2 stepchildren. Let's see, we got 31, 30, 28, and 23.
Cool. And I am Deshard Freeman. I have 3 children now, 14, 13, and 10. And so we're going to have a good conversation today, brothers. I'm grateful that y'all decided to come through and to hold it down on behalf of fatherhood. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to ask you just a series of questions, and we'll kind of kick it around. I want y'all to be as transparent and as real as you can be with these podcasts. You never know who's going to hear it and where they're going to be at that particular point in their life. And your testimony, your life experiences may make a difference for them. So I want to start off real light. I'm going to throw you an alley-oop. It's a light one. How did you feel when you first found out you were going to be a father? How did you feel? And I'll take this one first because my wife and I were not married at the time, and I was a prominent minister in the city, state, and nation, and so to have a baby was kind of like the scarlet letter, and so I didn't really have that initial pride that a man has when he's going to have a child, even though I had a son. It was kind of a dark period in my life, but it birthed a lot of positive things and positive experiences. But so for me, it was kind of a time of reflection and a time that I experienced God's grace on another level. No matter who takes it next.
I was scared out of my mind. I was 16 years old when I found out I was going to be a father. Junior in high school. So yeah, I thought I had everything set out in front of me, thought I had all these different plans set up, and then I get a call, says I feel kicking. Oh, okay, I don't, what does that mean? And I won't go into any further detail, but it was definitely life-changing for me. So the excitement for me, it was there, but it wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was a lot of anxiety and fear because I'm like, my life, I don't know what happens from here, being a 16-year-old kid, no job. I didn't even have a car at the time, you know. So it was scary for me.
I happen to know you're a PK. Did that have anything to weigh in any way?
Oh man, that had a lot of impact on it. I mean, of course, there's a disappointment factor, right? Because my father expected better. He thought he had raised me better than that. But then there's the side of it being a PK, where you have that undue pressure, where PKs are expected to be perfect.
Right.
We're supposed to have it all together. And of course I didn't, but I wasn't doing anything any different than a lot of other
everybody
kids
else was doing, right? Yeah.
But I was Pastor Williams' son.
Right.
So it definitely, it not only affected me in house, but it affected the church house.
Right.
And it impacted relationships with people. It changed a lot of things in people's lives.
Got you.
Well, I was 18, and I didn't feel well at all. I wasn't a PK, but I was a PGK, preacher's grandkid. So
That was good. How
yeah,
you did that.
yeah, you
I
like that. It is funny because how I found out coming out of the auditorium, high school, getting ready to graduate, getting ready to go to college, and someone brought me a note, and the note said, "You're going to be a dad." Just like that. So I was,
Congratulations. Wow.
and it wasn't even the girl that was pregnant. It was someone else who brought me the note. So,
Yeah. Oh man.
we were having fun coming out of the auditorium. I mean, my heart just dropped. You know, so I guess the biggest fear of my mom finding out, and I got to tell her. So no, I didn't feel good at all. Didn't feel good at all.
For me, I had just came to Texas from Chicago when I was going to school, and I had met at that time my wife, and we were just hanging out, kicking it, and she told me that she had missed a cycle, and I'm laying in bed, I'm like, and I couldn't make no emotion. I was like, oh man. So okay, so I knew I had responsibility. I didn't want the responsibility, but it was there.
Right.
And I couldn't run from it. I wasn't going to run from it.
Yeah.
So we just started our family from there.
You said she missed her cycle. You'd be like, well, go catch it. Don't just let it get away from you. Go catch it.
For me, it was I wasn't in high school or anything. I was already on my own.
Yeah.
With my then high school sweetheart, and we was love will conquer all type of relationship, not knowing how the hard life could be. But I remember being very excited. It was a girl, and I remember wanting to be perfect, like wanting to be the perfect father.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like wanting to do everything right, and just I was imagining years ahead and things like that, and just really thinking back on it now, being very naive about how hard it is to be a father. But I wanted to be the perfect dad at that point.
Yeah.
Thank you, brothers, for sharing that experience. So I forgot to say when we first started, I'm labeling this Daddy TV. Get it? Daddy TV. All right. Anyway, so this particular segment of the Free Ndeed Friday podcast is I'm the Pappy. From that classic scene in Life where they trying to figure out who's the mama of Little Daddy or Little May Rose. I'm the Pappy. So just want to express the pride and joy of being somebody's daddy. Some days you wake up and you have that thought, man, I'm somebody's daddy. That's a game changer for real. So let me ask this question. For you all, what is the most difficult part of fatherhood? Having had the experience, the journey to this point, what would you say is the most? And if you can't come to the most, what are one of the most difficult parts of fatherhood?
I think for me, the most difficult part was it wasn't as difficult trying to be the perfect dad, as he said, be a provider, not wanting you to want for anything.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you still feel like, was that enough?
Right.
Did I really achieve all of that?
Right.
So that was I just wanted to be a good provider.
Right. So meeting expectations.
Yeah.
And maybe even expectations that nobody else had for us, right? We set for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on that is coming to the realization that you are not perfect and you're going to disappoint your children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a man, you don't want to do that.
Right.
And when that happens, and it happens over the course of time, it hurts.
Yeah, it hurts.
And you try to make up for it, and you cannot. And I think also, as your kids get older, you have to sort of be a spectator in their lives more so than, you can give them advice and counsel, but at the end of the day, they're going to go through that adventure on them, through life themselves. And you just sometimes have to be there to pick up the pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
In many cases. And that's difficult because you know what you taught them, you know what you told them, but they're going to naturally go out and experience things for themselves. So that's a difficult parenting period. Anywhere from, I would say, 17 up into their 20s, you start to have to pull back a little bit, and that's very difficult.
You kind of play the mind game with them because you can't whoop them no more. So you kind of like. So you kind of play the mind game with them because for mine now, even though they're working, they're making good money. I'm the last option when they call when they want money because when they call, I want to know, okay, why are you calling me? I mean, you working, so it comes with a lot of questions.
Right.
Because I know what I taught you.
Right.
So I'm gonna give it to you, but it's gonna come with
some reasoning.
Yeah, so I want to make sure you don't come.
Let
back.
us reason together. Yeah, I understand that.
I think the difficult, I've grown from that, being a new father and having so many kids. I think, and then Deacon Green and Deacon.
So many kids.
Yeah, Deacon Green and Deacon. I got a village.
Yeah.
Deacon Green and Deacon McKnight saying that the expectation. But I think the hardest thing for me then was meeting their expectations, trying to be what they need me to be as a young father, still in school, trying to do the right thing, and just trying to meet their. And sometimes, it takes me back now when I think about the stuff that when they call me, like Green said, they call want money. Okay, what you want money for? So if I don't meet that expectation that they want, it takes me back. Okay, you remember you wasn't here for that. You remember you wasn't here for that. So, so I think meeting their expectation for me.
So would you say that in some of those instances, guilt plays a part?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely will say that guilt plays a big part.
Wow.
And I would go further to say that, especially when you've been through a breakup situation, whether it's a divorce with the mother of the children,
Right.
that is a guilt thing, right? That you're not present in the home,
Right.
whether it's a good relationship between you and the mom or not. You're not physically there every night, every day. So there is a great deal of guilt when that child calls you or texts you and says,
I need
Daddy,
Yeah.
and you like, I gotta come through.
Right.
And in many ways, you gotta realize that you're not really teaching them anything in that instance, because if they're not managing their money well, or if it's something they don't really need, you still need to be a father in that you say, you don't really need this. Or if you're older, why are you not managing your money? Why don't you have enough money for gas if you're working a 40-hour-a-week job? Right? You must be spending your money. So you got to kind of shake yourself from that and say, look, I don't have it. And then that adds more guilt eventually, because you say, man, I should have gave it.
And do they hit you back with, man, how you gonna say you ain't got it and you already blah? Do they?
Yeah.
The scale say
not really, not like that, but it's more. I know with girls, like I say, girls are hard. I don't know if I don't know the order. Girls will break your heart in many different ways.
Yeah.
But if your daughter, I don't care how old she is, if she says daddy and she looks at you, or you hear her voice say daddy, I'm in trouble, or I love you, anything after that is like, I got it. I'm gonna give it to her, or I'm gonna give it to her and not chastise her too hard. But it's really hard to turn your back on your daughter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys agree with that, but it's hard.
Well, for that reason, I pretty much prayed that the Lord not give me. No, I understood, and then I believe that you reap what you sow, and I haven't always been right by people's daughters, so I said, Lord, you're servant, and I just need you to be gracious. So to hear y'all make that confession, I'm grateful that the Lord smiled on me.
Yeah, because He knew me, because He gave me to you right out the bat. I said, man, Lord, what is up?
Courtney?
Well, for me, I think, so my kids have been gracious to me. I mean, they really make being a dad easy. They do set some lofty expectations, right? Like, you got to be the best at basketball. You got to be the best musician. You got to be the best da-da-da-da-da. But they don't really make me feel guilty when I do things wrong, or when me and mom ain't quite getting along. They've never really given me a guilt issue. My issue for parenting with them has always been managing the personalities, because you can't raise your kids the same way.
You can't.
And with them being so spread out in different stages of their life, even if I was gonna try and raise them the same way, there is such different phases.
Right.
Yeah,
It just doesn't
important.
work.
That's important.
Right. So that's always been, I'd say, the most difficult part is just making sure when I'm dealing with CJ, I handle CJ the way CJ can handle it. I chastise CJ the way he can handle it. And sometimes I will tell him things that really sound rough that I can't say to my girls.
Right.
But see that's true, because people don't realize raising girls and boys are totally different.
Right.
Because see, girls don't like to get yelled at. They don't like to disappoint their dad. And so they try not to get too much in trouble. But your son, man, I told you, dude. Why you?
And those boys gonna test the limit.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny because my son is really tenderhearted, right? And so he'll kind of push the limits, but then also sometimes he's just like, man, the minute I just look at him, he's broken, right? So I have to find, again, with his personality, I got to find that way. How am I going to approach you today? And depending on the situation, do I even care about how you're going to receive it? Because you may need to hear this the way you don't want to hear it,
exactly,
so that this thing can soak
that builds
in.
character. That builds character.
I got a call this week from one of the mothers in the church, and she was asking a question that had to do with a father being hard on the son. And I was trying to kind of help walk through that dynamic, but I also began to think about the fact that as African American men, we are privy to the knowledge of what society is like for us. And sometimes it may seem like we being hard, but really it's kind of like, how do I prepare you for what I know you're about to have to live through? And as much as mothers may love and all this stuff, like to a certain extent, even an African American woman can't understand what it's like to have to be a African American man.
That's a whole nother podcast right there.
And my wife used to always say, I'm glad you're not my dad, because I couldn't take what you do. But if you look at my kids now, they understood what the vision that I have for them. I might have been a little hard, but it all paid off in the end.
The question is, did you explain that to them? Because I know sometimes when I'm dealing with my kids, I got to go back and explain, this is why.
This is why.
You know, that way they don't think,
but
okay, well, daddy's just crazy.
I think they really got it when they went to college. They really got it, because they won't tell me, because when they went to college, like, now I see what my dad was talking about. It's not easy out here.
Right. Well, I also think is you got to be hard, but you also have to maintain the relationship. And that comes through with, I'm gonna be hard on my son or on a black boy, because he's gonna be a black man, and you know, sometimes the deck is stacked against you. But for a black girl, the first person she's supposed to love is her father. I don't believe there's any such thing as a bad woman. If there's a bad woman, it's probably a bad man somewhere that made her that way. Whether it's a daddy, brother, uncle, something like that, where it's a severed relationship. So with girls, again, I'm gonna go back to that daughter thing. With boys, you know, if you say your son starts dating, you know, you find out about it, it's kind of a little chuckle, and then you get into the real, where you say, well, you know, hey, wait till you get married, but you like, I'm glad. Son, I'm glad you like that girl. I'm glad you like a girl. Because I was worried. But the real on the daughters is, like my guy, one of my good friends who passed away, he was a preacher, and me and him used to talk about it all the time, and he said, McKnight, here's the real. One of these days, your daughter's going to give somebody some, you know what. That's reality. Now, how that happens is how you pour into it, whether it's in the backseat of a car or whether it's on her wedding night. You understand what I mean? That's hard. Because as a man, you think about the lengths that you went to get with a girl. Every woman you meet is either somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, or soon to be, or is somebody's mom. So think about that.
And I actually thought about that when they was born, and I went to visit them in the little room. All that went away, because I knew right then.
That's right.
She was a girl, and eventually I know who I was, and I know
right.
I had to start pointing to them right then because
That's right. And even though you do that, that knucklehead, whoever he is, she likes him for some reason. And you can look at him and tell that boy is lying. He ain't no good.
this is what I did.
You know what I'm saying? But she like him even more.
And most of the time, that boy used to be me. I know that look.
He knows my girls, and this is what I told him. If you interested in a guy, they have to make an appointment to talk to me.
Come
Off
see.
the top. Ask me how many came to me. Just one.
Wow.
Just one. Because they always say, no, Dad, how you know? That used to be me. I can smell them coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a tough deal. And then with the boy, one of the things that I made sure of, and even as he, when I got divorced, and my son was little, and I made sure that he didn't see me with any women, whether I was dating anybody or not, because I didn't want him to misconstrue. You wake up and Tammy is making eggs one day, and then you wake up again and Karen is picking you up. And like, well, we going to Miss Karen's house? Like, well, who are these people?
Right.
Right.
And then he starts to think, oh, I get it. I can have.
Right.
I'm gonna have 5 girlfriends like Pops.
Wow.
And then when you come to him like, well, yo, man, don't live like, and he's seeing you.
Yeah. Then you're a hypocrite.
You know what I mean? And so you gotta be careful to be patting him on the back, saying, yo, I'm glad you like the girls, but don't be like, yo.
That's why I'm grateful my son
You
got
running.
sisters, because I gotta tell him, look,
Yeah.
think about how you want your sister to be treated.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you said, that's somebody's sister. That's somebody's daughter. Do you want your sister to be treated like that? Because if you don't, brother, listen, don't treat that young lady like that.
Yeah, man.
If you gonna beat a dude up behind how he treats your sister one day, understand she may have a brother who want to do the same thing to you.
Don't be that
if you
dude.
mistreat that young lady that way.
Yeah. That's good. Let me push us forward onto something else. I honestly, and I kind of stay in my feelings about this. And I grew up in a single parent home, so my mother pretty much raised me by herself. Culturally speaking, we put a lot of energy into celebrating motherhood. And for most of us, mom was our first love, the person who, taught us a lot of things. But I personally kind of feel some way about the diminished role of fatherhood in our society. And I think fatherhood is not celebrated equally, but then I also feel like we live in a society that subconsciously tells us that fatherhood is not even necessary, right? And studies have shown that when we went through the 80s that was a ploy to remove fathers, especially from homes of color. So my question is, how do you feel about the minimized importance of fathers?
it's our fault.
Okay.
It's our fault because we haven't lived up to the expectation of fatherhood. We go out there and do our thing, and she get pregnant. They're not like us. We didn't take care of. We counted up on our responsibility. But these young men today have no conscience. They do. Hey, hit it and keep moving. So that's why it's a lot of single mothers in the home. They don't want to pay child support. So it's kind of like taking away from fatherhood a little bit.
I feel that.
So I'm probably gonna get in trouble.
Get in trouble,
Raymond.
get in trouble.
But I think I agree with you that collectively as men, as fathers, we have not done a great job of showing why we're important. But I think we also, as a society, as a culture, have allowed the celebration of the woman who's been able to overcome not having that man in the household overshadow the ability for a good man to be in the home.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that drives me just crazy is say, for instance, on a Mother or Father's Day rather, if fathers are being recognized, and let's say kids are speaking, and then they get up and they like, I want to recognize my mom.
My mama,
Whoa, wait, hold
'cause
on.
she
We
was
already
my
had that.
father.
We had
Yeah.
that last month. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I'm not taking away from her being a great mother and doing double duty or whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
but she still wasn't your father.
Absolutely.
You just had a dynamic mom.
You had a super mom.
Right.
Super
You
mom,
had a
yeah.
super mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so that rubs me the wrong way, but when we allow that to happen,
Yeah, man.
that celebration in that way also says, well, you know what? They're not needed.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it without them. And if you push, it's almost like a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know what? I'm going to be that mom. I'm a single mom. I'm going to be that one. I don't
Right.
need that man. And then
Mm-hmm.
it just
But
perpetuates the cycle.
and if she was to really say, I really wish that a man was here. If she can really say that out loud, but she's not going to say it, but she really would wish that it would be a man that can come in, because a mom can only show a young man so much. Like I can only show my daughter so much.
Right.
So you know, I can't take you to the store and pick out some purse. I don't know nothing about that. So
And even if you could, it wouldn't make you a mama.
yeah,
It would just mean you're a dad who knows some things
About
beyond his
purses,
normal
yeah.
life
Yeah.
as a father.
yeah.
Well,
Right.
I think I agree with you, and I agree with you, Green. I think some of that comes on us as, you know, whatever generation you want to call it. There has been some people that have failed as fathers, but I think we do need to acknowledge, to Pastor's point, there are good men.
Yeah.
I see them all the time.
Yeah.
There are black men who don't have kids. They married into a
Right.
marriage
Wow.
where they have multiple stepkids and they love them. Where I know brothers, I didn't even know that the kids weren't their
Yeah.
biological
Yeah.
kids.
Right.
They don't even say my stepkids.
Yeah.
I mean, and so we've got to prop that up a little bit more. And then as far as the woman having to raise, I don't think any woman wants to raise a kid by herself.
She really don't.
Yeah.
And I think the natural order of things is she would love to have a good man with alongside of her. But you know, you reach a point in life where you feel like, you know, I done been through, I'm not gonna expose my kids to this disappointment, right?
Right.
So you date a guy for a while, he's not the one. So now they get their hopes up, that guy's not there anymore. So I can understand reaching a point of, well, you know what, I am done with me because I've been scarred. And it goes back to what I said before, where the disappointment that men bring and that baggage is now on the next guy who may be the guy. But, you know, that has been ruined for it.
I think that Mother's and Father's Day, Mother's Day has been so commercialized, for as that it's become more economical. That you know, as a guy, men are gonna go out and buy gifts for their mama. They're gonna go out and buy mother's gifts for their girlfriend. They're gonna go out and buy mother gifts for their wives. So it's a little bit different when it comes to fathers, I believe. Now my son, we talk about this. Matter of fact, we probably gonna have this conversation on Sunday. We'll call each other and talk. What you got for Father's Day? What you got? Oh, nothing. Man, I walked down Walmart. We had one section just for father. I mean, one section, and we had about 3 women in that section looking for stuff. So I think it's become commercialized because it's big money for mothers on Mother's Day. You know, people are not going to spend a whole lot of money on Father's Day. You know, I got ties and some cologne that I liked.
Look at you. I'll take another tie. I ain't tripping.
I think that makes sense. You know, Bible gonna always be mama no matter what. I mean, the relationship ends. There's still gonna be that maternal relationship between children and mama. But I think it's a little bit different when it comes to dad. Yeah.
I hear y'all. I really feel some kind of way because I feel like I'm here. And to the fathers who are not, shame on them.
I don't understand how they do it.
Yeah.
I love being a husband, but I love being a father more than anything in this world. I love it more than being a preacher. I love it more than I love basketball. Like you say, you know, you wake up and I'm like, I'm a dad. I'm like, I don't know what life is like without it. Then again, I've been a father more years of my life than I have than not.
Right.
But I can't imagine my life without it, man. I love it.
How can we positively encourage the guys who run from their responsibility not to? Like as a community, how can we, send this message, in a way that is received, right? Because I think one thing is sometimes African American men are so beat up, the last thing we want to hear is somebody telling us what we're not and what we're not doing again. So how can we positively inspire and encourage, people to step up?
I think being transparent with young boys. I know plenty of them that are early to mid 20s, maybe multiple baby mamas, don't have good relationship with the baby mamas, not making a lot of money, and just frustrated because they feel like, she's taking my money and, I can't see my kid, or she's about to move out of state, and they just feel like, the court systems is not there for them, and if you throw in any kind of criminal justice stuff, then now that's another layer. When I just think they just get to the point where they throw their hands up, and I think those of us who have been on the other side of that can tell them that you can persevere and maintain a relationship with your son or daughter, and you're going to be better for it.
Right.
But you got to overcome those tough times, and no matter what you think about the mother of that child, you and her are going to have to get along for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well start getting along with her now.
Well, I think that's probably a big link in what you're saying too. Is I would imagine, I didn't do it, but I would imagine a lot of brothers aren't necessarily running from their kids as much as they're running from the baby mama.
Right.
Yeah. But I also think, let's back all the way up, just from a fundamental, I know when you put the cart before the horse, we're out of order.
Yeah.
We're out of order as Christians, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not. Nobody at the table is. But in the grand scheme of things, you have a baby without having a relationship with the girl.
Right.
So what do you expect to happen? It's chaos. So it's also talking about generational curses and breaking cycles. My youngest son just graduated from college, and one of the things I talked to him about, I said, son, please, whatever you decide to do in your career, you got free reign. You have no children. You have nothing. You can go adventure the world. But when you decide to have a baby, please get married, get to know your wife, and then have a child.
Right.
Please do it that way.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Right.
But at least put it in the back of his mind.
Right.
Like, let's try to break this
Still
cycle
have a standard in
at
place.
some point. Right? And I'm not saying that fixes everything.
Right.
Because there are men in the home that are in the home and they're not good fathers.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's something to address. But I just think being transparent with the men who are going through it, particularly young boys, and just saying, there is another side to this. You can get through this. And walking alongside them as they go through.
Basically what I can tell them is it's okay to be scared. It's a scary thing to be a father. But you got to do handle your responsibility. Just do it. In the long run, it will pay off. Just do what you're supposed to do. It is scary. And I can't really tell you enough about doing what you're supposed to do. If I tell my son, if you get a girl pregnant, handle your responsibility. That's it.
Y'all kind of segueing into my next question, so I just want to stay in that vein. And it really has to do with how are you personally encouraging your children to kind of have better or do better than you have had and done? Like, how are you conveying that message?
Well, one of the things that I do with my kids, we have what's called a monthly, and we try to do it twice a month, a monthly, I talk to them all the time though. We have a monthly conference call where we all, just my kids and me, we all get on the phone, and they grown, and married, and got kids of their own. And we talk about life issues.
Right.
And I try to convey, especially my daughters, I got 4 girls, about, this was going to happen, this is going to be how he's going to act, he's going to do this, So I try to convey to them in that manner of being there, encouraging them in a way of not, when things fail, when things don't go well, try not to be the dad saying to them, I told you so. I told you to be that dad. It's okay, let's get back up.
Right.
Let's get on, let's do it again. It's okay. And you had a time to say, well, Dad, if I don't listen to you, this way. I never forget. One of my daughters getting ready to get married. and we were driving to the church in the limo. I was in the back of the limo. And I had told her from day one, "Yeah, this is not the guy. This is not the guy. This is not the guy."
And you in the limo. This ain't
This is not the guy. The day of her wedding, I said, "Listen, before we got out to go into the church, I said, listen, man, we can get back in this limo. We can get back in this limo. We dressed up down. She got her wedding dress on. I said, we can get back in this limo and drive off. But this is not the guy.
Wow.
Dad, what we gonna disappoint? We not worried. We just tell him we're gonna have a party, you know. And she told me today, she said, "Dad, if I would listen to you, you know, stuff." So I think, you know, and me not being there, hey, I told you so, baby. Listen, it happened. Let's move on. Get your life together. We're gonna keep stepping. You know, so
That's good.
be an encourager.
That's good. Being an encourager. That's good.
I try and teach my kids intentionality. Like everything you do has a result and it has a consequence.
Right.
And so I try and encourage them in little ways. Look, you go to school. I don't care. One thing I hate to hear, what did you learn today? Nothing. I know you're smart, but I need you to learn something. I don't care what you're learning. Learn something about one of your friends. Learn something about one of your teachers. Learn something about their background. Learn something every day, because every day you learn, you're continuing to grow. I always teach them just keep pushing yourself and make the right decisions. Or even in the reverse, like again, I can be a tough dad. So my son, he'll play basketball. Something go wrong, he'll fall. Like the other day, he fell, and then one of the kids going for the ball kicked him in the head. He crying. Dude, I'm not finna feel sorry for you right now. You good? Get up. Look, this is a direct consequence of what you do and don't do. The reason why you're on the floor is because you lost the ball. You lost the ball because you don't work on ball handling enough. You've been planning for this moment, you just didn't know it. And so I try to teach them, like, everything you do is gonna have a consequence. I try not to beat them up too much about it, but again, when you're intentional about what you're doing, you have a better way of kind of working things and weaving things. So like even today, that same son, we're talking, and I say, look, what are your goals? Like let's just talk about 3 goals you have. And I realized that in 13 years, we've never had a conversation about goals. Because he's like, I want to be stronger. Well, what does that mean, son? That's not a goal. That's a dream. How do we set a goal for that? And so now we're trying to work on being intentional about these 3 goals that we talked about. So that's what I'm really trying to drive them towards, just being intentional about things. And if you can do that, you'll be less aloof about life than I was. And maybe things will work out the way you want them to.
With my sons, you know, I try to teach them just basic man skills. You know, I was overjoyed the first time I got them all in the mirror. We were lined up like cell phone bars and taught them how to tie a tie. Stuff like that. We have our list of man rules that, you know, I used to go through them with them very often. Stuff like not hitting women, and, you know, different things that I kind of thought were values. But I think really, for me, the thing that I'm most committed to is being present. And they already, I feel like, ahead of me because I grew up without a dad. So my commitment is for them to never have to grow up without a dad. I can't say what the Lord's going to do if he would have called me home, you know, while they're still children. That's God's doing. But my commitment is to be present, right? Because I know the void, the scars, that not having a father, the impact that it made on me. And I just don't want them to have that impact. I don't want them to have that negative impact. So, yeah.
You know, that's important too that you say that, because me growing up, I had a father in the house at all times, but I dealt with something, I don't know if this is a real term or not, but it's something I've coined as present abandonment. And so my father was in the home, and I know you may be watching that and we talked about this, but what would happen is he was so busy with the church ministry, when we first got to the church, especially being at a church that had a lot of single mothers, and he's filling in. Right. You know what I mean? Being that fatherly role, that he wasn't always there. When I wanted him there or felt like I needed him there. So I felt abandoned even though he was there at times. And that created scars too. So sometimes, like you said, just being there has already helped stack the cards a little bit more because they know that they have a support system.
And honestly, in kind of starting out, you know, all of my kids have been growing up in this Abundant Life Church thing. And so I've tried to really be intentional at times to make them not feel what you're saying. Because I know it's a real thing, especially when it comes to ministry kids. Now, I've been blessed that my kids are very involved in the church, and our church is vibrant in a way that has a place for them. So a lot of times, if I'm here, they can be here. But I also understand the importance of being at all of their games, being at award ceremonies, concerts, that type of thing. And so, to the best of my ability, I'll pull away from ministry stuff so that they can't say, man, you were never at my game, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so those things of presence, and I want to drive that home to any father who's listening. Whatever sacrifice you have to make to be present, do that. Do that. Even if you gotta see, you and the mama ain't on good terms, and you gotta sit across the auditorium in whatever it is. Be present. I was saying before we walked in, before we started, I'm watching this show, Designated Survivor, and it seems like the president who is passed, his son kind of has this gulf in his relationship with his dad, and he's mourning that his dad died, but then they didn't really connect, and then so the new guy, the Designated Survivor, talks about a time when the president came into a board meeting and was talking all of this stuff about how proud he was of his son.
Right.
And the son was like, well, that didn't happen. I didn't know that person. Right. And then he went on to say, one of your concerts, he was there. He was like, no, he wasn't there. He said, no, he had to be in the back with a ball cap. He was the president, didn't want to overshadow your moment, but he was there. And the kid just kind of broke down at the thought that my father was there. And I think about it, if it has that much weight to know that you're there, it's got to also have that much, if not more, impact whenever you're not there, right? To look out and to see all of these other people and other kids with their dads, and mine isn't. You know what I'm saying? One last question, and then I'm gonna wrap us up. Let me see how long we've been talking. 41 minutes. Let's get this, because I really want us to have this dialogue. There's a Netflix series just released, well, not just, I don't know how long it's been out, but about the Central Park 5 called When They See Us. Has everyone seen it or no?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
I know the story behind it.
All right. Well, the story in short, for those who may be watching, you've got these 5 kids, 4 of them are African American, 1 is Hispanic, and there's a rape that takes place in Central Park, and these kids are basically coerced into confessions, like that they did it. Now, they didn't know anything about it. They had no knowledge of the details, but they were coerced into this confession. Well, when it comes time for the trial, even though they're saying, well, we didn't do that, their confessions are on tape. And these kids at that point then go, into serving time, and they get out. But, even though their time is served, they've still got the stigma of what's on their record. And I mean, it's the type of film I really believe every African-American male or everybody connected to one needs to see it and have the necessary discussions. So my thought process is just those of you who haven't even seen it, just considering this plot. That is reality. This is a real story, right? How do we feel? What are our perspectives on the reality of this type of thing happening? Now, case started, this event was in 1989, but still there was no real exoneration till I think like 2004. And then the movie, of course, is bringing new light to it, so people are having this discussion. But at the end of the day, I wonder, between 1989 and 2019, how many other times has this same thing happened, right, that may never get the media coverage, but our boys are a part of this systemic problem.
Right. Our boys are. I mean, just recently I was traveling back to Austin. I got a phone call. Police was calling me, so I just hung up. I didn't know what it was. I kept hanging up. Mr. Green. He said, we got your son's car on the side of the road, abandoned. I'm like, so everything going through my mind, this the call you really don't want to get.
Right.
So I'm getting this. I said, man, what you talking about? My son car on the side of the road. Well, it's over in this neighborhood off a railroad. I said, well, he got a friend that stays over there. I said, okay. I said, hold on, wait. So I pulled the car over, called my daughter. She said, she was at the store. I said, where's your brother? He told me his car's on the side of the road. So she acting like I'm acting. So why is his car on the side of the road? I said, go over there by Will's house. 'Cause I know he stays over that way. Mm-hmm. The car wasn't even on railroad. It was on in front of his friend's house. She goes over there. So why is she even over there? Well, that's another story. I said, make a long story short, that's a call that a parent never wants to get because, you know, he's black. He's a black male. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of scary. So, I mean, it's scary for a black man in America right now. Mm-hmm. So we don't really know what's happening is going on. Mm-hmm. It really hasn't changed from that time to now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the show, and I think I agree with you, Pastor Fred. I think every male, black male, and I think women need to see it too. Mm-hmm. I think they really need to see it. The first episode is so, you know, it really sickened me because I didn't think I was gonna be able to go through it, but once I got through it, it was pretty good. Because I agree with Green because you dread that phone call that about your son, and I know what I do with my kid, especially my youngest son, and my oldest son too. Hey, if this happens, this is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my youngest son is 26, but when you get home, call me and let me know you made it home. Mm-hmm. I mean, because that's that fear of being black in America, a black male in America thinking, okay. And it's crazy because I don't think there's much difference. The only difference I think there is, we have social media, we have videos, and you know we're prone to use those things. But I think about the cases where, what about those kids that don't have those particular devices that can do that and get railroaded by the police department. Not to say all police officers are bad, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that it's a scary feeling having a black son in America. I've been pulled over a lot, but I think it's a difference when they see an older person versus a younger person.
Yeah.
Being older, younger male being pulled over.
Right.
And today's millennium male, they not.
Yeah.
They, you know, they're not like we were, like we marched and saying we will overcome. No, today's male, they're not putting up with that.
Yeah. You know? Well, one, they don't have the context of fear.
Right.
For lack of a better term, but for the sake, most of you, and myself included, kind of understood at some point that equality was not necessarily our reality.
Right.
And so we kind of grew up in that context. Well, our children, they go to school with other races. Everybody's the same. Supposedly everybody's the same, right? So they don't come to the table with that misconception or reality, really, that I've got to act a certain way because I am African American. I've got to always present myself with my best foot forward because I've got a strike against me, and it shouldn't be that way, right? And I tell my kids all the time, you got a presentation at school, you wear a suit. And I understand everybody else don't have to do it, right? Even now, God has blessed my ministry to sit at some tables with some guys. But when I go to the table, I have on a suit. Now, I don't wear a suit at my church. But when I go with them, I do. Now, they may be sitting there with button-downs and jeans and so, but I understand that because of the color of my skin, I have to always go that extra mile. And I think it's important for us to drive that home, to be honest. And unfortunately, this movie sometimes somewhat is a matter of wrong place at the wrong time, but then why is being in the park the wrong place, So it's those types of things that we have to think about those things on another level, because what may be all right to some will be all wrong for us.
See, I haven't seen the show yet because of all the anger that people say about it, and I don't know that I'm emotionally ready just yet.
Gotcha.
But that knowing, that being self-aware of my emotions comes from being exposed to other things that have sometimes directly or indirectly affected my family.
Right.
And so even though I haven't seen this, these are conversations I have with my son all the time. Okay, you may be hanging with your friend across the street. He's a Caucasian. He can go to the store, and when y'all walk out, nobody's going to question him. But if you got your hands in your pocket, they're going to think you took something simply because you're a black young man.
Sir.
When you go to school, they're going to tell you you're doing fine, and you're at a 70. They're going to say you're doing great, and you're in the 70s and the 80s, and you're not.
Right.
You're a smart young man, but you got to push even further. So I'm always driving these conversations home. And I think it's unfortunate that I have to.
Absolutely.
I think it's unfortunate, but I understand the reality of the situation. I understand that my son, right now they got the hairstyles growing out and just kind of looking kind of wild. And I'm like, nope, you're not doing it. You're not doing it. Because the minute you walk down the street, you can have the dreads, and this is nothing against brothers with dreads, but I guarantee you, if you got a bald, clean cut brother and a brother with dreads, they're going to look at the brother with dreads first and profile him. Just because, and I don't need my son profiled like that. So now we're going to keep the clean cut for a while until you know how to balance that with the hairstyle. You know?
The movie for me is, I grew up in New York, and I was in New York at that time. And I remember vividly everything that happened, and those kids could have been any of us at that time. Just black kids trying to have a good time. I didn't live in Harlem, I lived in Queens, but we remember how it went down. And, and you probably know this too, Green, we didn't have that type of relationship with the police. We didn't have a good relationship with the police. When the police came to our neighborhood, it wasn't a good exchange. Something bad was going to happen.
Right.
And I think a couple of things about that movie, it shows that basically the assumption that the DA was making is it doesn't matter who we pick up, they were going to get in trouble anyway. So the value of the black body is at zero still.
Right. Expendable.
And 89 wasn't that long ago.
Yeah,
that's not a long time ago. So it's a duplication of what happened 30 years prior to that, which is all the stuff that went down, the civil rights. There was never been a value placed on black life. So, and it also says the message that we got to drive home to our kids and it's unfair that you can check all the boxes and do everything right and still end up in a bad situation.
Yeah, man.
If you look at those families, if you watch the movie, those are middle class black families.
Right.
Like nobody was selling drugs out of the house. They were just ordinary people trying to make it.
Right.
And they got caught up in the system that if you don't have the money and you don't have the savvy, you will be caught in that machine. Right. And they got caught in the machine, and it took how many years for them to get out of that? So I think it's important for us to tell our kids, even though you are a good student at Pflugerville, you are a good student at Manor, your blackness is a weapon. It's weaponized. And you're black by association. So when you get pulled over, they don't care about your grades or anything like that. You're the right person for the right crime. And we got to tell them that. And it's unfortunate, but movies like that don't upset me. It just further convicts me to say, for all these little guys we got in our church, we got to tell them. Yeah. And I would argue, and I agree with what you're saying about the dreads in the hair, but what bothers me about that is, and this is a totally different topic, why do we have to surrender our blackness because of people can't handle it?
Yeah. That's why I say I don't have anything against it.
You know what I'm saying? It's
but
almost
I understand
like,
the reality.
So like right now, like on the East Coast, the beard thing is a big deal. Like bros wear the big beard. Why do they have to stop doing that? Because
Santa Claus got a big beard.
Because it makes somebody else upset. So if my son want to wear the twist like they do, why is that a problem? It's almost like we always have to put down some of our culture to make other people.
I think out of protest, both of y'all need to grow dreads.
Both of y'all. That's why. The dreads only gonna be out here. They're not gonna be in the middle.
That's what I think y'all should do. Listen, brothers, I hate to wrap up this discussion because it was good stuff. We may have to do a part 2 because there's a lot of stuff a lot of ground that we could cover just surrounding this conversation. But for those who are listening and those who will view this, I pray that it has been entertaining and informational in some way. You've been able to pick up something of value from Daddy TV. I like that, man. We might need to do a show called Daddy TV. Anyway, I'm the pappy. You supposed to say it.
I'm the pappy.
Yeah, your turn.
I'm the pappy.
I be the pappy of that baby boss.
I'm the pappy.
That's what's up. It's another Free Ndeed Fridayz podcast. This Pastor Free. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I holla. Thank you, brothers.